On a bright day, the sun's rays illuminated the beautiful snow, as the famous comic book titled, Tales of Demon and Gods, began its story. The tale unfurled on the fringes of the perilous Mount Ancestral, ensconced beneath the unfading shroud of everlasting snow. For a long time, humans were forced to live isolated in this mountain valley, cut off from the outside world, which was ruled by the menacing snow wind beasts. In this world, power and survival skills were everything. Only the strong could survive, while the weak would become prey for the stronger. Just like a helpless snow mouse when attacked by a ravenous eagle. With its ferocity, the eagle dragged its prey across a magnificent city that stood on the surface of a mountain valley. This city was known as Glory City, the last fortress that successfully resisted the darkness. Well hidden within the mountain valley, this city had managed to survive the dark times. In the past, the continent was filled with legend-rank fighters and demon spiritualists. Powerful kingdoms stood under the shadow of their glory. However, they all crumbled and vanished from history. Glory City remained as the last hope for humanity. Despite frequent attacks by the fearsome snow wind beasts, the city always rose from the ruins of war. In the heart of Glory City, there was an institute known as the Holy Orchid Institute. It was the place where fighters and demon spiritualists were trained as the next generation and formidable protectors of the city. Today, the atmosphere in the classroom was filled with excitement as a new female teacher entered the room, ready to start the lesson. The students sat neatly, eagerly awaited. The students began discussing with enthusiasm. One student whispered to a friend in awe, telling them that the new teacher came from the sacred family and held a silver rank as a demon spiritualist. Their friend was surprised to hear this, knowing how esteemed the family was, being one of the 3 prominent families in Glory City. This news caught the attention of all the students, who were impatient to get to know their new teacher. With an exceptional identity and reputation, all eyes were on her, creating a lively atmosphere in the classroom. The female teacher's name was Shinshio. She was depicted as having a tall stature, wearing a dress that perfectly enveloped her body, highlighting her noble charm. She adorned herself with beautiful makeup, making her look beautiful and graceful. Her eyes were filled with pride and arrogance, as she was born into the esteemed sacred family and held a 3-star silver rank as a demon spiritualist. Shinshio commenced the lesson by introducing the students to the fascinating world of fighters and demon spiritualists. With a cold expression, she divulged the secrets of their hierarchical system, consisting of 5 distinct levels: bronze, silver, gold, black gold, and legend rank. These ranks, further classified from 1-star to 5-star, signified the prowess and strength possessed by both fighters and demon spiritualists. However, it was the demon spiritualists who held a special place, regarded as noble beings due to their ability to form a soul realm within their dantian. Explaining the advantages of having a soul realm, Shinshio's eyes gleamed with excitement. She revealed that demon spiritualists could capture and integrate demons into their soul realm, forming an unbreakable bond that granted them extraordinary powers in combat. In a haughty tone, she proudly declared herself as one of these elite individuals, possessing the scarlet flaming fox as her demon spirit. The classroom buzzed with anticipation as Shinshio demonstrated the incredible transformation brought about by merging with her demon spirit. The once graceful teacher underwent a stunning metamorphosis, her face sharpening, teeth and nails growing into deadly weapons. Ears elongated, and a scarlet tail emerged from her back, mirroring the fox-like appearance of her demon spirit. The students gasped in awe, witnessing the fusion of human and demon into a formidable entity. Shinshio elaborated on how this fusion bestowed demon spiritualists with the abilities and characteristics of their demon spirits. Due to the scarlet flaming fox being a gold-rank beast, Shinshio's potential was confined to attaining the gold-rank demon spiritualist level. However, she intriguingly alluded to the prospect of ascending to higher realms by substituting her current demon spirit with a gold-black, or even a legend-rank beast. The revelation left the students awestruck, as the aspiration of becoming a gold-rank demon spiritualist seemed unattainable to most. Their admiration for Shinshio grew, mingling with a sense of wonder and envy. As Shinshio continued her lecture, Nie Li, the protagonist, sat in the back row, his mind lost in a trance-like state. Outside, the weather gradually brightened, with warm rays of sunlight piercing through the clouds. Despite the pleasant scene, Nie Li struggled to regain his consciousness, his eyes fluttering open. Startled by his sudden awakening, Nie Li's confusion deepened as he surveyed his surroundings. Everything appeared different. His hands, once strong and familiar, now seemed smaller and foreign. Searching the room, his gaze fell upon a woman on the stage, speaking animatedly. It dawned on him that this was the year he joined the prestigious Holy Orchid Institute. The woman he was looking at was none other than Shinshio, a renowned teacher known for her arrogance, and a 3-star silver rank demon spiritualist. Nie Li was extremely surprised because at that moment, he should have been surrounded by the Sage Emperor and the 6 deity beasts. However, due to the battle, he had exhausted all his power and died. He felt confused about why he had returned to the Holy Orchid Institute. Nie Li began to think that his soul might have been reborn to the time when he was 13 years old. To confirm it, he looked to the side and saw familiar faces like Luo Piao and Du Zhe. Although their appearances were very immature, Nie Li felt happy to see that his friends were still alive. Then, Nie Li looked to the left and saw a beautiful girl with purple hair a few meters away. The girl's name was Yi Ziyun, who was only 13 years old at that time. Although young, Yi Ziyun looked slender and beautiful with her long purple hair. Seeing Yi Ziyun still alive, Nie Li couldn't hide his happiness. However, despite seeing all of this, Nie Li didn't believe that he had truly returned to the past. He thought that all of this might just be a dream that was too good to be true. To seek the truth, Nie Li pinched his cheek and felt the pain that proved it wasn't a dream. Suddenly, Nie Li remembered something important. He realized that the temporal demon spirit book might be the reason why he had returned to the past. With that belief, he began searching for the book in every pocket of his clothes and under his seat. However, he couldn't find the temporal demon spirit book because it was missing. The origin of the temporal demon spirit book was very mysterious, and its creator was unknown. Nevertheless, Nie Li always kept the book and carried it with him since he obtained it. He vividly remembered that during his battle with the Sage Emperor and the 6 deity beasts, his blood had completely covered the book. Therefore, Nie Li was convinced that the mysterious phenomenon happening to him was related to the temporal demon spirit book. After seeing all the familiar faces, Nie Li was engulfed in distant memories. He remembered the dark memories from his previous life when Glory City was mercilessly attacked by the Snow Wind Beasts. The Snow Wind Beast had successfully damaged the city's defensive wall and entered the city. As the guardian of Glory City, Emo fought with all his might to buy time for his people to escape. As a result, Emo died in that battle, and only a few thousand people managed to escape to the Endless Desert. During their escape, one by one, the survivors fell in the Endless Desert. One day, they were surrounded by those beasts, and they had no choice but to fight. Hearing the commotion outside, Nie Li stepped out of the tent and was shocked to see them surrounded by the beasts. The air was filled with the chaotic sounds of snarls and roars, and fear gripped Nie Li's heart as he surveyed the dire situation. Determined to protect the remaining survivors, he made a swift decision. "It's too dangerous. Yi Ziyun, you must stay inside the tent," Nie Li urgently instructed, his voice tinged with concern. Yi Ziyun, though hesitant, nodded and retreated into the safety of the tent, her eyes filled with worry for Nie Li's safety. With his heart pounding, Nie Li joined the fierce battle alongside the survivors. The intense battle persisted, favoring the survivors as casualties littered the desert. Eventually, the tide of the battle shifted, driven by the survivors' determination. United and resilient, they gradually overcame the beasts one by one. Breathing heavily, Nie Li returned to the tent, his body battered and bloody from the relentless struggle. Yi Ziyun's worried eyes widened at the sight of his wounds. She hurriedly gathered medical supplies and tenderly began tending to his injuries. However, in her haste, the bandage she wrapped around his arm was wound too tightly, causing Nie Li to cry out in pain as blood sprayed from his wound. Yi Ziyun's eyes widened in shock as Nie Li cried out in pain, blood spurting from his wound due to the tightly wrapped bandage. Her expression showed surprise and regret, realizing that it was an unintentional mistake that caused Nie Li's suffering. Nevertheless, that incident brought Nie Li and Yi Ziyun closer together. Under the vast night sky, the surviving victims found solace in each other's presence as they rested and tended to their wounds. The memory of their collective bravery would forever bind them together. As the first rays of sunlight broke through the horizon, the survivors gathered their strength and continued their arduous journey, their spirits bolstered by their recent triumph. They ventured further into the endless desert, eager to uncover its secrets and face whatever challenges lay ahead. Nie Li and Yi Ziyan decided to explore the endless desert together. Although they walked without a clear purpose, they remained strong because of each other's smiles. However, their happiness didn't last long, as a tragic event befell Yi Ziyan. Nie Li forgot that he was in the endless desert, a place newly inhabited by many beasts. As a result, he hadn't prepared himself for the possibility of a beast's sneak attack. There was a tense moment when Nie Li suddenly heard a voice behind him. His heart pounded heavily, trembling with adrenaline that filled every fiber of his being. Without hesitation, he immediately turned around, but his eyes froze at the horrifying sight. Blood sprayed ferociously in his direction, signaling a real danger. However, luck had forsaken Nie Li, leaving him helpless in the face of the relentless passage of time. Desperation engulfed his heart, like a raging storm, as Yi Ziyan, the person he held dear with all his soul, selflessly sacrificed herself to shield him from harm. Profound grief washed over him, coursing through his veins, as he witnessed the bitter anguish of an irreplaceable loss. His eyes became fountains of sorrow, brimming with teardrops that mirrored the depths of his pain. At the end of her life, Yi Ziyan died for the love of Nie Li, carving an eternal sacrifice in their history. Nie Li witnessed that tragic moment, feeling the waves of sorrow filling his fragile soul. Nie Li faced it shattered and devastated. He gave Yi Ziyan a final tribute through a funeral ceremony filled with love and sadness. Tears streamed heavily from his regret-filled eyes as a final homage to the woman who had loved him so sincerely. However, amidst his devastation, Nie Li gathered the remnants of his strength and continued his adventurous journey in the endless desert. Each step was filled with unforgettable pain, but he did not surrender to sadness and regret. In that desert, Nie Li confronted lurking threats with unwavering courage. He felt adrenaline flowing in his veins, his deep eyes scrutinizing the surroundings with sharp acuity. Every attack from savage beasts attempted to test his resilience, but Nie Li faced them with unmatched sharpness. With intelligence flowing through every fiber of his being and a high instinct for survival, Nie Li managed to survive the endless desert. Despite his mediocre talent, he utilized the knowledge he possessed from his previous life to continually develop his abilities. Each small achievement was proof that hope still existed, even as he walked amidst the ruins of destruction. During his adventure in the Divine Continent, Nie Li encountered many people who had survived the dark times. He witnessed unexpected mysteries, extraordinary wonders, and through those experiences, he grew into a wiser individual. Amidst his journey in the Divine Continent, Nie Li managed to obtain the Temporal Demon's Spirit Book. Now, Nie Li had grown into an adult with the strength to confront several fierce beasts. However, despite his physical strength, his heart still felt empty and filled with sadness and regret. The bitter past still dominated his thoughts, especially when Glory City fell, and the beloved ones within it faced painful deaths. Yi Ziyan, who lost her life while trying to save him, left a deep scar in Nie Li's soul. However, as Nie Li lay dying on the brink of life and death, a glimmer of hope emerged within him. He hoped to relive the days when he first met Yi Ziyan, when their love was still pure and unaffected by tragedy and loss. With the final gift from the heavens, Nie Li was determined to protect Glory City from ever experiencing destruction again. In the ensuing silence, Nie Li utilized his time to prepare himself. He knew that someday, when he faced the Sage Emperor and the 6 deity beasts, he would seek vengeance and justice. His genuine desire to protect Glory City and erase his haunting regrets gave him the strength to keep moving forward. However, Nie Li found himself trapped in a complex dilemma. The meeting between Nie Li and Yi Ziyan happened because of the destruction of Glory City. Without that tragedy, they might have never come together. Yet, in his new life full of opportunities, would their past still influence their relationship? Although Nie Li had a weak foundation initially, he had amassed abundant knowledge from his previous life, giving him the chance to further develop his talents. Luo Pio couldn't understand why Nie Li smiled to himself, so he asked with genuine curiosity, "Why are you smiling?" With a smile full of warmth and hope, Nie Li tightly embraced Luo Pio and gently said, "I'm smiling because I'm happy to meet you." Luo Pio felt bewildered and never expected to receive such affectionate treatment. This made him feel annoyed and exclaimed with a worried tone, "Hey, Nie Li! What do you mean by calling me your good brother, you gay lord? Let me go! However, Nie Li remained unaffected by Luo Pio's protests. He continued to gaze at him with sincere love, smiling with deep conviction, and spoke with warmth. You will always be my good brother, no matter what you think. Those words left Luo Pio stunned, unable to utter anything but to look at Nie Li with astonishment. Perhaps Nie Li was someone peculiar, but those words opened Luo Pio's heart and made him understand that their bond of brotherhood would never falter. With profound meaning and flowing emotions in his heart, Nie Li released his embrace on Luo Pio. Looking at Nie Li's interest in Yi Ziyun, Luo Pio stared at Nie Li seriously and said that he knew Nie Li's identity as a member of the noble family. Despite Nie Li's noble status, Luo Pio still warned him not to mess around with the girl. Because the girl's identity was very mysterious, even the principal personally arranged her dormitory. Nie Li smiled faintly. He already knew Yi Ziyun's true identity. Despite knowing her identity, Nie Li remained unwavering and determined in his efforts to win Yi Ziyun's heart. He firmly declared that she belonged to him, disregarding Luo Pio's previous words. Nie Li also eagerly looked forward to the growth of this little girl after witnessing Yi Ziyun's beauty when she grew up in their past lives. He was determined to protect her and grow together in this life. Meanwhile, Yi Ziyun furrowed her brows as she observed Nie Li, who continued to gaze at her incessantly. However, she chose to remain silent as long as Nie Li didn't provoke or disturb her. Beside Yi Ziyun, a handsome boy occasionally glanced in her direction. He wondered why Yi Ziyun kept looking back. After observing carefully, he saw a boy with orange hair, Nie Li. The boy glared at Nie Li angrily because he managed to capture Yi Ziyun's attention. Nie Li tried to recall who the boy was, staring at him with such fury. Finally, Nie Li recognized the boy as she knew. He came from the Sacred Family, one of the 3 major families in Glory City. Xinxiu, who was speaking on the stage, was his aunt. In Nie Li's past life, Xinyu was always pursuing Yi Ziyun. They were even on the verge of getting married. However, the marriage was cancelled due to the Snow Wind Beast attack in Glory City, right before the ceremony. As members of the Sacred Family, they were supposed to protect Glory City. Instead, they betrayed their duty and fled while Glory City was facing destruction. As a result, Glory City was easily destroyed by the Snow Wind Beast. Now, Nie Li was in a dilemma, thinking about how to change Yi Ziyun's perception of him. When Nie Li saw Yi Ziyun's sharp gaze, he felt a touch of disdain in her eyes. According to Yi Ziyun, Nie Li was considered a useless nobleman, lazy, and fond of playing around. Every time Nie Li saw familiar faces, he felt something lag in his breath. Especially when he looked at Yi Ziyun, he was reminded of everything that happened in their past lives. Nie Li smiled meaningfully as he gazed at Yi Ziyun. At this moment, he didn't need to worry about the impression Yi Ziyun had of him. In his heart, Nie Li felt grateful to the temporal demon spirit book for giving him another chance to meet her. Meanwhile, Yi Ziyun looked at Nie Li smiling at her and felt confused. She felt Nie Li's gaze was somewhat strange, his smile and eyes expressing a slightly melancholic expression. As Xinxiu stood on the stage, her gaze landed upon Yi Ziyun, a hidden secret known to only a select few within the esteemed halls of the Holy Orchid Institute. Little did they realize that Yi Ziyun was not just the daughter of the city lord, but also the granddaughter of the renowned demon spiritualist Yi Mo. Moreover, she possessed an extraordinary gift, a rare genius with a soul realm tinged in vibrant cyan. If Xinyu had married Yi Ziyun, the sacred family would have reached the pinnacle of their power in Glory City. They had carefully planned for Xinyu and Yi Ziyun to be in the same class, strengthening the bond of love between them. In silence, the sacred family had woven the threads of their power meticulously, ensuring their unshakable dominance in Glory City. After speaking about demon spiritualists, Xinxiu released her demon spirit power and returned to her human form while hugging her chest with both hands. She said, "For the next 2 years, all of you are my students. I have to tell you a harsh reality. In this world, there is no equality. When you grow up and leave this school, you will agree with my words. Equality is only a lie planted by adults. You cannot live in a fairy tale forever." Xinxiu's words pierced the hearts of the students like a knife. She continued by recounting the history of Glory City. Glory City was the only city that survived the Dark Era, and there were 2 powerful forces there, the fighters and the demon spiritualists. Demon spiritualists were noble and rare creatures. Among 1,000 fighters, there was only one demon spiritualist. Therefore, to this day, Glory City only had a few thousand demon spiritualists. Fighters and demon spiritualists were distinguished based on their levels: bronze, silver, gold, black gold, and legend. One's level greatly influenced their status in Glory City. As a result, many commoner families were willing to expend all their resources to send their children to the Holy Orchid Institute, hoping to change their family's fate. Among the 36 students in this class, there were several commoners and nobles. Shinshio drew a line between the students by stating, "Even though you start from the same position, your statuses are not the same. I hope you all have self-awareness." She continued with harsh words, stating that a commoner would remain commoner, and the dream of becoming a noble was impossible. Lastly, with an arrogant look, Shinshio demanded that students from ordinary families give up their ambitions to achieve higher social status. Even among the nobility, there was a strict hierarchy that should not be violated. Nie Li thought that Shinshio's words would crush the spirits of the students from commoner families, as their goal in attending the Holy Orchid Institute was to change their family's fate. The boy wore slightly worn-out clothes. He clenched his fists and bit his lip as Shinshio's words struck a chord in his heart. Upon hearing Shinshio's cruel remarks, Nie Li immediately glanced at Duze, a friend who came from a commoner family. He knew that Duze must have been deeply affected by those words coming from a teacher. In Nie Li's previous life, Duze had worked diligently and with extraordinary effort. Through his own hard work, he became a formidable gold-rank demon spiritualist. He achieved this without any support from his family, relying solely on his own efforts. During the time Glory City faced destruction, many nobles only thought about how to escape. However, it was different for the commoners like Duze, who fought relentlessly against the snow wind beasts until their last drop of blood. Nie Li felt a deep sadness over the unfair treatment of the commoners. In his past memories, he remembered how the powerful noble family, known as the Sacred Family, had been the first to flee when the situation worsened. That memory sparked a raging anger within Nie Li's heart. Nie Li's sharp gaze was directed towards Shinshio, a member of the Sacred Family, who stood on the stage before him. Unable to contain his emotions, Nie Li raised his hand firmly and said, "Teacher Shinshio, I have some questions." Shinshio recognized Nie Li as he always paid attention to Yi Ziyan. With a cold expression, she snorted and asked, "What are your questions?" Nie Li asked. "Teacher Shinshio, you once stated that Glory City is the only city that survived during the Dark Age, and we are the only humans still alive. Do you have any evidence to support this claim? Have you ever left the city and visited the Endless Desert, the Toxic Forest, the Blood Moon Marsh, the Spirit Gulf, the Heavenly Luster Mountain, or the Northern Snow?" Shinshio snorted and admitted that she did not know about the places mentioned by Nie Li, as she had lived in Glory City since birth and never set foot in those places. Nie Li smiled faintly and said, "Since Teacher Shinshio has never visited those places, how can you be so certain that we are the only humans still alive?" Shinshio fell silent with a disgruntled expression on her face, while the students in the class began to discuss calmly. They had no knowledge of the places mentioned by Nie Li. Meanwhile, Yi Ziyan became intrigued by Nie Li and looked at him curiously. She wondered how Nie Li knew about those places. Nie Li appeared confident as he debated with the teacher. Meanwhile, Shinyu, who observed Nie Li with amazement, furrowed his brow slightly as he sensed a threat within him. Unhappy with the situation, Shinshio retorted to Nie Li's question. "So, what evidence do you have to prove that we are not the only humans still alive?" Nie Li smiled subtly because his own life experience was his evidence. However, he couldn't state it explicitly, as it was unlikely that anyone would believe him. Instead, Nie Li calmly said, "Allow me to tell you a story. Once upon a time, there was a frog that lived at the bottom of a well. Since birth, it could only see a part of the sky through the well's opening. Hence, it believed that the sky was only as big as the well itself. So, was the sky really as small as that, just the size of the well? Therefore, we can say that the frog saw the sky from the perspective of its well." Upon hearing what Nie Li had just said, the students in the class couldn't help but burst into laughter. In a subtle manner, Nie Li likened Shinshio to a frog that lacked knowledge, and the impression spread among them. Aware of this insult, Shinshio was furious to the point of almost bursting with anger. Nie Li likened her to a foolish frog, insulting and demeaning her dignity. Yi Ziyan couldn't help but burst into laughter. She realized that Nie Li was quite fascinating, able to calmly argue with a teacher. However, in her laughter, there was a touch of irony because she knew how sharp and bold Nie Li was in his words. Nie Li occasionally glanced in Yi Ziyan's direction. At that moment, he saw Yi Ziyan smiling at him, gazing intently. Her smile conveyed a profound message, expressing support and appreciation for Nie Li's bravery. Nie Li smiled meaningfully and winked at Yi Ziyan. This gesture symbolized the trust and confidence silently shared between the two of them. Observing Nie Li's expression, Yi Ziyan quickly turned her face away, blushing and unable to directly meet Nie Li's gaze. This embarrassment arose from a growing feeling within her heart, a feeling she had not fully acknowledged. Luo Piao, sitting next to Nie Li, raised his thumb in appreciation after witnessing such an intriguing performance. This praise reflected his admiration for Nie Li's cleverness, who tactfully countered insults and created a strong impact. However, Nie Li was not finished with his efforts to humiliate Shinshio. He looked at Shinshio and said, "Teacher Shinshio, I have another question." His voice sounded resolute, indicating that Nie Li would not stop until he achieved his goal. Although Shinshio was still seething with anger, she couldn't explode right then and there. With a sour tone, she replied, "What other question do you have?" The tone of her voice revealed her confusion and growing lack of confidence. Nie Li delved into the heart of the matter with his question, which concerned the discrimination against commoners. Teacher Shinshio had previously stated that a commoner would always remain an ordinary person and never become a noble. Nie Li's question presented undeniable facts that shattered Shinshio's beliefs. Nie Li asked, "Wasn't Lord Yemo once a commoner? Doesn't the teacher know this?"